Good morning, Mr. Ruiz. You were arrested for 2 counts of open murder with use of a deadly weapon. The court did find probable cause existed for your arrest. We do need to hear from the district attorney's office today, and then we'll hear from the public defender.
Your Honor, it's the state's understanding the public defender would like to pass this to the department.
That is correct, Your Honor. I would like our homicide team to handle this case personally, so we're asking for 2 days to the department.
So, Mr. Ruiz, this court will be holding you on no bail. I'm going to send your case to the department that will ultimately be hearing your case going forward. And you will have your Valdez and Menace hearing at that point. That court date will be
June 12 at 8:30 in Department 14.
Thank you.
So, you all remember this case I put out on my channel involving 2 YouTubers who were involved in a very dangerous feud between themselves on the YouTube platform, and how it quickly escalated to the point where one of them, known as Manuel Ruiz, aka Sin City Money, would eventually track down and fatally unalive his feuding partner, or the YouTuber he had the beef with, and his wife, called Rodney Finley and Tanisha Finley. Now, if you are not familiar with that story, you can just check my platform and you see it's there. But this is an update to that case because things are looking very, very bad for the key suspect, Manuel Ruiz, aka Sin City Money. This is because, as it stands now, prosecutors are saying that Manuel Ruiz deliberately fired 7 shots fatally in a crowded area, seeking to unalive Rodney and Tanisha Finley, and actually succeeding in doing so. And by that act, he endangered the lives of the people in public. That is directly against everything that the laws of that state in the United States stands for. And per this, Money Sin City is actually being looked at by prosecutors as being a likely candidate for the death penalty, to the point that prosecutors are considering pursuing that death penalty in the case that has been leveled against Sin City Money for the murder of Rodney and Tanisha Finley whilst they were live streaming on the Las Vegas Strip. Now, this case is one of the cases that really brings out how far a lack of emotional intelligence, restraint, and ego being on the high can get you. Because this is something that should have never happened. It's something that should have never happened at all. In his defense, Sin City Money and his team are actually trying to raise the defense of self-defense, that Sin City Money took his GUN and fatally unalived Rodney and his wife whilst they were live streaming as a way of defending himself because he felt his life was under threat at the hands of this couple. Now, as far as that defense is concerned, some people are saying it's bullcrap and it wouldn't go anywhere. But before you join that bandwagon, I think it's important we also take a bit of a look at the possibilities surrounding the case and that defense. Now, first of all, Sin City Money turned himself in. He turned himself in after the act, and he's claiming that he did it as a result of self-defense because he felt his life was under threat. He's actually going on to talk about the fact that he saw his victim, Rodney, and his wife making certain gestures that made him believe that Rodney was reaching for something from his waistband. Bear in mind that when police arrived at the scene minutes after the shooting, they didn't find any weapon on either Rodney or his wife. So the two victims were not armed. They were not armed. But then it still doesn't take away the fact that Manisin City is still claiming that he did all that as a result of self-defense. But the main question is, will his plea of self-defense possibly succeed? This is what they may look at in the state of Nevada. I believe that is where the whole thing happened, in Las Vegas, yeah. So he is likely to have to be in a position where he would be able to convince the jury and any other related party in that decision that genuinely, as an objective human being, per what was playing out within those moments prior to the fatal shooting, he felt, per what he saw in the actions and inactions of the two victims of his, that his life was at risk. If you don't know this, let me explain. When it comes to self-defense, the ideal prerequisite is that the force you apply in defending yourself shouldn't exceed the force that is being exerted upon you, based on which you see the need to now instigate an act to defend yourself. So, for example, you cannot say that someone took a hold of you and held you up by the collar of your shirt, and the first action you took to defend yourself was to grab a gun and unalive the person. Again, you can't also say that somebody shoved you and, like Carmelo Anthony did, you just took a knife and unalived him. Those are extreme cases that will hardly qualify as a self-defense or a defense based on the fact that somebody was defending themselves. Now, per what we saw in this footage between Sin City Money and his victims, Rodney and Tanisha Finley. Rodney and Tanisha Finley, being YouTubers, were also live streaming what they were doing on that strip when this whole thing happened. So in the video, of course, because of YouTube's graphic policy, I can't show it here. But in the video, I've watched it. You'll see that out of nowhere, Manny Ruiz, aka Sin City Money, appears in the live stream and calmly strolls through the video. He strolls through calmly, goes and then comes back. And then he pulls out his gun and fires 7 shots at them. I don't see any action from that footage that depicts that Rodney and his wife were doing anything that sort of drives somebody to a point where they fear for their lives and they choose to do what Manny Ruiz did to defend himself. From what I watched, I don't see anything, but I'm not the investigators. I'm sure they'll have other forms of evidences. That live stream video in itself is also a key evidence and it shows what it shows. So, to succeed in that defense of self-defense, Sin City Money would have a long stretch to pull. Because how do you go from someone doing a live video and you just popping into the video, pulling out a gun, a firearm, and just unaliving them? How do you go from that and say that it's a self-defense? And for what he's claiming he may have seen them doing, how does he prove that? I don't know if his defense team can be able to glean that successfully from the footage of that live stream. I've told you I'm not the expert. I'm just giving my 2 cents. But basically, this is the uphill battle that lies ahead of Manuel Ruiz as he waits for his day in court to go through this. And if he loses, the prosecutors have made it very clear that they are looking to get him the worst punishment there is. That is the death penalty. But let's ask ourselves, How did we get here? These are two guys who are both YouTubers. They have monetized channels. They are being paid. Come on. I know several YouTubers who are struggling to get monetized. These guys are monetized. They are being paid. All this is the culmination of an online beef where each of them were throwing shots at each other on their various platforms and just, I don't know, I think for some reason they didn't really think it would get to this point, or at least one of them didn't, because I doubt Rodney actually thought it would get to this point. I doubt. But here we are. Sometimes talk is cheap, but sometimes some talks and some games and jokes are very expensive. To the point that I'm sure if Rodney knew Sin City Money wasn't playing around, I'm sure he would have watched his words. This is not to blame the victim, but to advise those of us who are left to learn from this case, because it could still be anybody. This started on YouTube. The next incident, in actual fact, I have over 500 videos on my channel, and you can see where some of the cases start from. It's just, it's bizarre because you couldn't have seen it coming. There's nothing as nothing to some people. That's how come you need to learn to understand who people are and respect them for the differences they have, because what may seem like a joke to you is a whole world of pain to somebody else. It's a whole world of resentment and disdain to somebody. Respect the differences that people have. And for Christ's sake, these are adults. And you see, the prosecution could possibly go for an angle where they may want to look at it from the angle that Manuel Ruiz conducted all this as a predetermined action. He planned it and he executed it. And I'm sure if they want to go down that route, his own YouTube videos could be used against him, because you actually see Manuel Ruiz going live, driving around, and talking about the fact that he's looking for Rodney and his wife, Tanisha Finley, when he found out that they had come to Las Vegas where he was. So it presupposes this guy was actually looking around for them, obviously per his actions. But then the other leg of the conversation is, if that can even be established, does it necessarily mean his motive was to unalive them when he finds them? Or he was looking for them as a sort of way of promoting that YouTube feud? Because obviously it was gaining them traction and numbers and money. So was it a real beef that was ready to blow up, or it was just a keyboard beef which got triggered when Manuel Ruiz finally met Rodney and Tanisha Finley in person, and maybe he saw something and felt Rodney was trying to pull a firearm on him and he was faster in pulling his? We can't tell. That's how come he's in court. Because sometimes with some of these things, on the face of it, when the case breaks out, you may think you figured everything out. You would say, oh yeah, he did it, it was this, blah, blah, blah. And then other fine details could be gleaned, and you realize that, oh, okay, the rarest of possibilities actually manifested, and it's the other way around. So in no way am I saying Manuel Ruiz is guilty, and in no way am I saying he's not guilty. That's for the court to decide. But the point I'm making is, this guy is currently hanging in a situation where he could possibly be found guilty of a double murder and possibly face the death penalty, all because of a keyboard beef that started on YouTube. That's bizarre. That's so bizarre. And I hope that we are taking cues from this. I keep telling you that when I bring you these cases, it's not just to inform you of what has happened, but it's also to shed light on certain things we can learn from and avoid being statistics in new cases that may come up, because There's a lot of crazy things going around, and sometimes you just need to be able to manage them when it gets closer to you so that they don't trigger around you and explode on you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and let me know in the comment section that you've subscribed. I'll keep on giving you quality content, and I'll catch you on the next one. Stay safe out there.